Hey again, gang. I hope you don't mind if I share another little studio tale. I had touched on this one a few years ago, but since we have double the amount of subscriber followers now, I think I'll expand on it a little more. This one was perhaps one of the more spiritual sessions I ever did. It was also one of the most fulfilling and one of the most earth-shaking, literally and figuratively. Let me explain. So I was doing the Song of America. For those of you that don't know, the Song of America was a 3 CD set that celebrated the history of America from 1492 to the present. And we found songs that represented each era and got big stars to record those songs. And it was very, very successful. It won a bunch of awards. It won Record of the Year in Italy, in Germany, in Norway, and I don't know, a whole bunch of other stuff. It got the Justice Award. I have the Justice Award, which will be here any day. We haven't unpacked it. I think it's coming separately because it's very, very fragile. It's cool. I'll show that to you when it gets here. So we did receive the Justice Award and, whatever. It was just cool to do. It was a labor of love. And 50 different artists doing 50 different songs. But when it came to doing the spiritual Let Us Break Bread Together, which, is 400-year-old song, the first people we all thought of was the Blind Boys of Alabama. And at this time, most, not all, but most of the original Blind Boys were still alive. Jimmy, who was the leader and the oldest member, he sang lead, and I don't even know what to say. The earth did shake. They asked me, this is funny, they asked me to play guitar. And I had done some research on the Blind Boys, but I hadn't done enough at the time, because if I had, I would have found out that in their early days, they always performed with a guitar player, which I was like, why would they do that? They're the Blind Boys of Alabama. They fill a room with 5 voices. But yes, they used to perform with a guitar player, and he used to play electric hollow body. And he'd use tremolo, and it was very tasteful. The guy was really good. But they hadn't performed with him in many, many years, which is probably why my experience of listening to them for 30 years, I had never heard that. I had heard people try to modernize them, try to make them do things that seemed sort of unnatural. But I hadn't really known about that. So they said to me, do you play guitar? And I'm like, yes, of course I play guitar. And I had my guitar with me. I always have my guitar with me in the studio, even when I'm producing and not playing. So they're like, would you play guitar on this track? Well, okay. So I urge you to go listen to that track. Wherever you find your music, Let Us Break Bread Together by the Blind Boys of Alabama. Because it is so incredibly moving. It's all live. Bob Olson said to me before we started, he's like, hey man, why don't you get them to sit in a circle, all 5 of them in a circle, and let's do a Bloom line mic configuration, right? So that's 2 figure of 8, slightly off center, I think it's a 45-degree angle. So you're really capturing the whole thing. And no headphones. And even they were like, no headphones? And I'm like, do you need headphones? Just go for it. And they're like, no, that would be great. No headphones. So, but they said, yeah, you play guitar. Now, the other thing to be known about this is it's not a standard blues or a straight blues, nor is it a straight spiritual. There are voicings going on here, not just with the voices, but with the guitar part. And there's a lot of passing notes and inversions to do it right. So we ran through it a few times, and it's in the key of F, not a guitar key, but who cares? And we ran through it, but every time they ran through it, I was so entranced by their voices, I was getting lost. So when we decided to finally go for the take, you will not hear my guitar, because though I had gotten the tune down by then from the first 2 or 3 takes, but when we said we were going to go for the real take, the first, okay, let's go for it. We know we're going to try and make this the one. I play the first chord to try to get them locked. And then once they started going, I was mesmerized, and I just kind of like slowly faded. You don't hear me, because it wasn't necessary. I was not necessary. When you hear the song, you'll understand. I was not necessary. They didn't need me. Once they had their pitch, they were fine. Anyway, they did the take, and Jimmy says, okay, now what else do you want to do? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you want to like do some overdubs and you want to add some stuff? And I'm like, no. I'm like, what's wrong with that? And he's like, God bless you. I guess everyone wanted to like just put crap on top of it. And we were just like, well, this is the most beautiful thing we've ever heard. Why would we add anything to it? As a producer, again, man, it's like not what you add, it's what you take away. And you work that out in the arrangement beforehand. And I thought we had worked it out, like, okay, we got all the voicings and everything's good and it's sitting nice and we like the tempo and the key is good. Do your job. And they not only did their job, they blew the doors off the place. And it's still to this day one of my favorite tracks to ever have anything to do with ever in my career. I hope I hear it in my final days. That's how great it is. So check it out. Let Us Break Bread Together by the Blind Boys of Alabama. And Jimmy is no longer with us, but the Blind Boys are still carrying on. That's the tradition. They bring new people in and keep going. But that was, you could ask anybody who was there that day, and they will never forget it. And I never will as well. And if you like these kind of stories, let me know, and I'll tell you about the time I produced Devendra Banhart and played piano and bass and sang backgrounds, and I didn't expect to do any of that. All right, cool. Thanks for being here. Take care.